Where's the flag? There it is.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Let me get the mic down a little
That's a
bit.
matter of opinion.
I need to look at approval of the June 24th regular board meeting minutes that were in your packet.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Next, looking at approval of the July bills, which were $390,589.51, which I'm assuming that total includes the last page and a half we received. All right. We'd ask that you'd send questions in prior so that Linda would actually have her bookkeeping things with her so that we could make sure we were accurately reflecting that. Does anybody have any additional questions?
Nope, I'll move the approval of the bills, the July bills.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Next, moving to the approval of the monthly finance reports as indicated in our first month of the fiscal year. Motion to accept
So moved.
and second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Shiny new beginnings.
All right. I'm now going to ask Ms. Jacoby if she will come up and speak with us briefly about the MSBA policies that we're going to be looking at, which speak about MOCAP and virtual learning, which they have split into two different policies from one policy where it was at MSBA to kind of clarify the MOCAP system and the enrollment across the state to make that a little bit more streamlined. And then she's going to speak about how that's going to affect us here in the district.
Okay, thank you guys for, can you hear me? I got a teacher voice.
The mic is for the people at home.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Keep it up
really,
close.
thank you
Yeah,
all for.
keep
this
it
will be
right
very-
on.
This will be very, very quick, okay? MSBA, as you know, this is the final reading. They're encouraging districts to formalize the process between the virtual courses and that we are offering on our platform in MOCAP. Mrs. Gillespie, she already presented this in June. But the difference that I had asked Brian if I could please speak to was that in these documents that you all have, it is advised that we make a deadline for these requests. And the reason for that, there's a couple reasons. We want students to be committed to either online or face-to-face learning earlier in the semester. Last year was a little crazy. We all know that with some of the COVID things that were happening. And you know, we allotted a little bit of extra time. I think families know now a little bit more kind of where they are and where they're going to go with that. My suggestion to him, those just needed to be equally applicable basically to both of them, to the MOCAP and to the Marshall platform. So I had talked to Dr. Mayer and Brian about setting that so we don't have to change it every year on the dates, 10 calendar days prior to the first day of school starting. So, for example, this year, that would be Friday the 13th. For August, for those applications to be submitted to buildings. That would be counselors and principals' time to be able to go through those applications and then students to be committed to that learning early on in the semester. For example, launch, their first date is August 23rd. So we would definitely want to get those applications in and process for either one. So I had asked him if we could go ahead and set that precedence in Marshall that it would be 10 calendar days. Additionally, for the second semester, we would want to do 10 calendar days prior to dismissal for our holiday break. So that this year would fall on Wednesday, December 8th. So I just wanted to present that to you all. That did go along with those MSBA policies, and I think that would be good for our district to go ahead and set those 10 calendar days for each one. And that way families know and it's communicated to them up front. But everything else that was presented to you in June is goes along with those policies. So.
Thank you, Ms. Jacoby.
Thank you.
So after hearing that,
So the 10 days would be there for the sake of giving the administrators, the teachers, et cetera, enough time to plan around things, enough time to communicate with, and counselors, right? Enough time to communicate with families about, here's what your onboarding process is going to be.
Since it is an approval process this year, it's a little different. We're not just, calling into the school buildings, hey, throw me on that distance learning. As you all know, we don't have the AMIX
Yeah.
this year that the state has said. So that would be for that. And then students could be committed early on with that.
Okay, so, yeah, for those of you at home, Ms. Jacoby just said it was a matter of kind of, making sure the approval process for these applications, that we've got enough time to process them.
And the reason we briefly just talked about this, the reason that we're saying 10 calendar days, some districts have adopted true dates. We would be changing dates constantly within our policy. So if we put it in as 10 calendar days, then that leaves us whether school starts on the 23rd or the 13th. Well, we can't start that early, of course, because of guidelines, but
What about
that
bu-
way it would stay.
Is
Business
10
days?
calendar days enough, or does it need to be 10 business days?
They said calendar days, so I was going with the people that have to
Yeah.
process the paperwork.
So that would give them, the counselors, about a full solid week to be able to process those applications. We could do business days. I was trying to kind of align it a little bit with our registration. Obviously, registration is open right now. On the 10th of August would be our on-site in the buildings for families that needed to come in and access a computer to do that. So that would be right about that time, really each year, that they would kind of go together. But it's definitely more time than I think last year they had, and I think they would appreciate it. I think families would appreciate it knowing that up front too.
And we'll be able to get these applications out into the district for people to be able to pick up starting now. So, I mean, it's not something that you have to wait till the 10 days before. There's things that can be turned in now, and people can be working on those as they come in.
Let's say I'm a parent who's waited to the last minute, and I feel like, oh, okay, it says 10 calendar days, maybe I could get it in on a weekend. Like, let's say that 10th calendar day falls on a weekend. So I'm kind of thinking the business days would save some headaches and have some clarity, yeah. And so that nobody is being tracked down for like, hey, I've got my 10 days, give me my 10 days. And you made the policy, so you set this up to be on a Saturday. Guess who's got to be ready to
Yeah.
accept these on a Saturday?
That would be good, we could do that. So that would adjust the dates a little bit, on those, just by a couple days. But that would be okay, it would still be close to registration.
So we need to vote to amend that then?
We will need to amend just our language of saying that we're going to use 10 calendar days within the district.
I agree with that.
And the option would be calendar days versus weekdays or whatever the motion would
Or
say, so.
business days. But if you wanted to do calendar days, then if having this date is important, then, or this proximity with registration and such is important, then why not just say, add language that says if it falls on a weekend, it'll be bumped to one side or the other, to the prior business day?
What about so actually it would be the 14th this year, that would fall to Friday the 13th, if we wanted to do that and put that in there.
I am open to motion.
Now, which specific policy is this, or policies?
This would be for the CID, whatever, the one with the C in it. The C is the one that's to MOCAP, the one without the C is for the virtual.
No.
So it would be our adoption of the one with ID.
Okay,
Aye.
get back here.
And actually, if you looked really closely at the policies, it did talk about that it was more important that they were equally on both. That the
Right.
application process was the same for both. So my recommendation would be probably for both policies to set that precedent.
For the virtual and for the MOCAP.
So it'd be the IGCD and the IGCDA.
There we go.
They're the letters.
IGCDA. And what was the other one?
Without the C.
IGCD.
No, it's without the C. Because for
Okay.
cat, that's the only reason I remembered it.
Yep.
So, anyway, so we need a motion then to look at adding that language to both policies then.
And do you have a preference then? 10 business days or 10 calendar days, not to, with an adjustment for the weekend?
I would do business just in case you have a holiday up in
I
there.
think business days is more
Okay.
clear.
Yeah, exactly,
too.
yeah. Otherwise,
Just
we're
do
getting
business.
into really like, how are we gonna word this, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so I hear the lean is to 10 business days, which would be Monday through Friday, excluding any holidays which would fall into that area.
Yes,
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor of turning that terminology in of 10 business days before the beginning of the school year, before the second semester start, please say by aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstain?
I move we adopt the agenda unless there's someone who has something to add.
Okay, so to be clear about what we just said aye to, it was to adopt all of the MSBA policies with the change in language for
Yeah.
IGCDA and IGCD, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
As it reflects to our district,
Right,
yes,
right,
for the
right,
10 business days.
I just had one, well, that wasn't what I was expecting. I'm cool with passing it, especially if it doesn't seem that you had any other problems with any of the other forms.
No.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was, okay, cool, I'm all good.
Thank you.
And we do have a set of district forms that we will be using for those, which were presented to us last meeting.
I read them all.
They're on the website.
Already,
as of
yes.
today.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Lord.
And so there was no other business to add to the agenda,
Okay.
Mr. Girl said?
I'll
I move.
second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of adoption of the agenda as printed?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? So there's no old business, new business. We need to look at setting the tax hearing. We usually do that 15 minutes prior to the board meeting in August. Does anyone have any problems with that time? This is not an action item, this is just a discussion point.
I may be close to being here on time.
If you need us to hold for a couple of minutes, we can do that. Just let me know, send me a text
Sure.
or something. All right, so we will be taking that date as of August 24th at 5:45 to set our tax rate at that time. Now we need to look for approval for the following special education and federal education contracts. That would be the Perkins Freedom Mobility, Braille and Orientation and Mobility Services, Research to Practice, Speech Language Supervision through MSBA, our local compliance plan, which is quite lengthy, and our physical therapy and Fitzgibbon Hospital plan. Is there anything you need to add to that? Do anyone have any questions about those? Or read the 100 pages
fun
of the
reading.
local compliance plan?
That was fun reading.
It always is, yeah.
So, I need a motion to accept those then as written and presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? We also need to look for approval for the free and reduced lunch form for the 2021-22 school year, which is actually a DESI form and not something that we actually make in-house. It is a standardized form.
Always a contentious item. on the
Yes.
agenda.
Anyone in favor of adopting that as presented from DESI, which we need to accept from DESI?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, I need a motion to exit open session to move to closed session at this
So
time.
moved.
Second. Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for being here for open session. All 14 minutes of it.
Amazing.